We need to eat the baby.
I have no respect for women who voted for Trump. Okay, I think so poorly of them, and the reason why.
Hey, welcome back. So most of you probably already know who Elijah Cummings is, but if you don't, he was the representative for Maryland. Elijah Cummings has died today. To me, it's just another politician. Elijah Cummings, a sharecropper's son who rose to become a powerful chairman of the U.S. House Committee that investigated President Donald Trump, died early Thursday of complications from long-standing health issues, his office said. He was 68 years old. Now, I don't know Elijah Cummings as a person, and the only good thing I probably could say about him is if you watched his hearings, maybe 2% of the time he might be nice to conservatives. That's a maybe. I hate his policies, I hate his ideology, and I just think him being a politician just wasn't that good for this country. But that's just my opinion. You know, I guess he can join John McCain. Cummings was a formidable orator who passionately advocated for the poor in his black majority district. That's a good thing. Which encompasses a large portion of Baltimore as well as more well-to-do suburbs. As chairman of the House Oversight and Reform Committee, Cummings led multiple investigations of the president's governmental dealings, including probes in 2019 relating to the president's family members serving in the White House. Trump responded by criticizing the Democrats' district as a rodent-infested mess where no human being would want to live. That's true. Those cities, they're filled with feces, needles, homelessness. I mean, it's disgusting. The comments came weeks after Trump drew bipartisan condemnation following his calls for Democratic Congresswomen of color to get out of the U.S. Why does it matter if it's a congresswoman of color, you idiot? Out of the U.S. right now and go back to their broken and crime-infested countries. Good for him. Because I know who he's talking about. He's talking about Ilhan Omar, which married her brother to get in a legal status for him, and I think she committed immigration fraud, but I'm not sure. I don't have any evidence, so I think I'm still waiting on that. Cummings replied that government officials must stop making hateful, incendiary comments that only serve to divide and distract the nation from its real problems, including mass shootings and white supremacy. Oh, you forgot one thing, Cummings. Black supremacy. Oh, and the left is what's dividing and distracting. Those in the highest levels of the government must stop invoking fear, using racist language, and encouraging reprehensible behavior, Cummings said in a speech at the National Press Club. Cummings, I think he thought he was still back in the 60s. It is very hard to find a racist today. I guess your definition of racist. Cummings' long career spanned decades in Maryland politics. He rose through the ranks of the Maryland House of Delegates before winning his congressional seat in a special election in 1996 to replace former Representative Q.C. Mifune, who left the seat to lead the NAACP. Cummings was an early supporter of Barack Obama's presidential bid in 2008. By 2016, Cummings was the senior Democrat on the House Benghazi Committee, which he said was nothing more than a taxpayer-funded effort to bring harm to Hillary Clinton's campaign for president. You sat on the Benghazi Committee? No wonder we didn't get anywhere with that. Throughout his career, Cummings used his fiery voice to highlight the struggles and needs of inner city residents, which he created. He was a firm believer in some much debated approaches to help the poor and addicted, such as needle exchange programs as a way to reduce the spread of AIDS. A key figure in the Trump impeachment inquiry, Cummings had been hoping to return to Congress after a medical procedure he said would only keep him away for a week. His statement then didn't detail the procedure. He had previously been treated for heart and knee issues. Cummings' committee authorized to investigate virtually any part of the federal government is one of the three conducting the House impeachment probe of Trump. Cummings was among the three chairmen to sign a letter seeking documents to the formal inquiry into whether Trump pressured Ukraine to investigate the family of Democratic presidential rival Joe Biden, the former vice president. The committees have issued multiple subpoenas of witnesses in the face of the Trump administration's refusal to cooperate with the impeachment probe and have jointly been meeting behind closed doors to hear testimony. Of course, it's behind closed doors. Separately, Cummings led an effort to gain access to Trump's financial records. His committee subpoenaed records from the Mazars USA, an accounting firm that has provided services to Trump. The panel demanded documents from 2011 to 2018 as it probed Trump's reporting his finances and potential conflicts of interest. Last week, a federal appeals court ruled that the records must be turned over to the White House. Shortly after Cummings' death after 2 a.m. Thursday at Johns Hopkins Hospital, his constituents began mourning. Maryland State Senate President, U.S. Senator Ben Cardin of Maryland, and others praised Cummings' service and friendship. In a statement, his widow, Maya Rockeymoore Cummings, chairwoman of the Maryland's Democratic Party, said Congressman Cummings was an honorable man who proudly served his district and the nation with dignity, integrity, compassion, and humility. He worked until his last breath because he believed our democracy was the greatest and best expression of our collective humanity and that our nation's diversity was our promise, not our problem. Oops. Nobody thinks diversity is a problem until that is all, like, that's number one on your priority list. Cummings was born January 18th, 1951. In grade school, a counselor told Cummings he was too slow to learn and spoke poorly, and he would never fulfill his dreams of becoming a lawyer. Right. I don't know. I was devastated, Cummings told the Associated Press in 1996, shortly before he won his seat in Congress. My whole life changed. I became very determined. Yeah, you just made that up for your campaign. It stilled Cummings to prove the counselor wrong. He became not only a lawyer, but one of the most powerful orators in the State House, where he entered office in 1983. He rose to become the first black House Speaker pro tem. He would begin his comments slowly, developing his theme and raising the emotional heat until it became like a sermon from the pulpit. Cummings was quick to note the difference between Congress and the Maryland General Assembly, which has long been controlled by Democrats. After coming from a state where basically you had a lot of people working together, it's clear that the lines are drawn here, Cummings said about a month after entering office in Washington in 1996. Cummings shared a congressional black caucus from 2003 to 2004, employed a hard-charging, explore every option style to put the group in the nation's national spotlight. He cruised to big victories in the overwhelming Democratic district, which had given Maryland its first black congressman in 1970 when Perrin Mitchell was elected. In 2015, when the death of black Baltimore resident Freddie Gray sparked the worst riots the city had seen in decades, Cummings was in the streets carrying a bullhorn and urging crowds to go home and respect a curfew. He spoke at Gray's funeral, asking all lawmakers in the church to stand up to show Gray's mother they would seek justice for her son. I want justice, oceans of it. I want fairness, rivers of it. That's what I want. That's all I want, Cummings said, quoting from the Bible. Well, listen. It's just another politician dead. And like I said, I don't know him as a person. I don't really care. I hope somebody saner gets his seat. All right. Good riddance, Elijah. So, this is funny. Lyft driver doesn't realize she's driving a getaway car after unwittingly picking up wanted man. That's crazy. Marisa Rules thought she was picking up a regular passenger, but later learned he was a wanted man. The guy seemed kind of anxious. He seemed desperate to go home, Rules said. She said she drove past police investigating the scene of a hit and run on her way to pick up a rider. She said she didn't know the man who ordered the ride was wanted in connection to that investigation. Just a few minutes later, officers stopped her car. Once I got pulled over and how he was acting, I kind of already knew, obviously, that they were looking for him, she said. Police said that investigators heard the suspect involved in the crash had been picked up by a Lyft driver trying to flee the scene. The minute we drove off from that house, he was done for, Rula said. Police say the suspects, Michael Magdaleno and Clarissa Roots, were arrested on suspicion of a hit and run. A spokesman for the police said it was the first time he's ever heard of anything like this. I don't know what's going through his mind, Rilla said. I don't know how desperate he was. I don't know what he was willing to do once he got away from that area. Despite the stressful ride, Rilla said she's still going to drive for Lyft. It's just like any other job, she said. You have a risk and all kinds of stuff. You could work at a liquor store and someone could come and rob you. This story will be the tale to keep for her future passengers entertained. Now I've got a story to tell my rides. Won't be so quiet, she said with a chuckle. Anyways, that's funny. Hey, welcome to the last story. So, this dumb shit came out of hiding. George W. Bush. Trump's isolationist America is dangerous for global peace. My middle finger is right at you, Bush. Former President George W. Bush, who led the United States into war across the Middle East for nothing, attacked President Trump on Wednesday night, saying U.S. intervention is necessary for the sake of peace around the globe. During a panel alongside former President Bill Clinton at the Nur School of Heart, Bush laid into Trump for his recent decision to withdraw up to 1,000 American troops from northeast Syria, fulfilling his long-held campaign promise to bring troops home after more than a decade of war. An isolationist United States is destabilizing around the world, Bush said, according to the Washington Post's Josh Rogan. We are becoming isolationists, and that's dangerous for the sake of peace. Bush is a neocon. He's a warmonger. All of these GOP, these old establishment people, they all want war because they make money off of it. Why do you think we're in so many wars right now? Like, we're in a lot of different, I think 8 different wars right now. It's all about the money. The United States is a corporation, in case you didn't know. Bush led the U.S. into war in Afghanistan and Iraq, with more than 4,500 Americans dying in Iraq, including more than 3,500 killed in combat and up to 205,000 Iraqi citizens dying in the war since March 2003. How long is this? Okay. In total, Bush post 9/11 wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, and intervention in Pakistan have resulted in the deaths between 480,000 and 507,000 people, including nearly 7,000 American soldiers who had deployed to the regions. It's funny because they all get worked up over vaping illnesses and deaths, but it seems like nobody cares how many of our soldiers die. Today, the overwhelming majority of American veterans and all U.S. voters say that Bush's war in Afghanistan and Iraq were not worth fighting. No, they weren't. More than a decade later, the latest Pew Research Center survey finds. Likewise, nearly 6 in 10 voters say U.S. military intervention in Syria is not worth fighting or risking American lives. I agree with that. Bush, according to Rogan, also said his biggest regret as president from 2001 and 2008 was not passing an amnesty for 11 to 22 million illegal aliens living in the U.S. Somebody slap this guy. seemingly attacking the Trump administration's focus on enforcement of immigration law and was helped boost wages for blue-collar and working-class Americans. We are a nation of immigrants. But the language coming out of the system today is rejecting immigration. Oh my, you are stupid. Oh, I'm glad he came out. During the two-term in office, Bush's immigration platform centered on his any-willing worker policy that declared all foreign nationals are welcome to come in the U.S. so long as they took American jobs, which were already scarce during the Great Recession and the aftermath of natural disasters like Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Rita. Bush continued attacks on Trump and his America First agenda stand in contrast to the former president's history of refusing to denounce the far-left policies of Obama. I don't think it's good for the country to have a former president undermine a current president, Bush said in 2014. I think it's bad for the presidency, for that matter. Oh, but you're doing it with this presidency? Yeah, fuck you. You piece of shit. Him and Bill are sucking each other off right now. That's all they do. They get together and they suck each other off. What a piece of shit. Likes. Oops.